grab it. You can say my name, cause I make it happen. I can see you coming back for more than tap into post now. Promise all you need to jump in. We've been planning this thing, and you've been getting away. I know I like to chase, but that's something I must say to you. No more running from this. I wanna be all in your midst. Tomorrow's not promised, so won't you come get on this? You should let me be right now.
Welcome back to the Doug Stewart Show, Man Talk Monday. Ballas and Bustas having fun talking about everything from this past weekend. Your boy was out a couple of days last week doing an audition, is what they call it, for 92.9 The Game. Shouts out to everybody once again that filled in Thursday and Friday and still did their shows and kept WSME still doing their thing, man. Shouts out to all of the other hosts on the network. Big time. Big time. Yeah. Dwight Howard. The press asked the new GM, Travis SHlenk, about Dwight Howard and does he have a place here on the roster for the team. Remember, the Hawks signed Howard to a 3-year, $70.5 million deal as an unrestricted free agent last season. There are 2 years remaining on the contract after an up-and-down season that had the center on the bench in the fourth quarter of several close games, including the playoffs. Here's a quote from Travis SHlenk. Listen, Dwight is one of the best big guys in the league. He averaged 13 points and 13 rebounds a game. He's one of the best rebounders in the league. He's one of the best rim protectors in the league. I haven't had a chance to talk to Dwight personally. We've exchanged some text messages. I certainly plan to talk to him soon and get to know him. I'm not going to judge you from what I've heard. Let me see you face to face. Howard will make $23.5 million next season, the highest salary on the roster of signed players. He ranked 5th in the NBA at 12.7 rebounds per game and 6th at 940 total rebounds last season. He ranked 20th in the league with 1.2 blocks per game. Man, that's crazy. So, Hawks are kind of in a bad, rock and a hard place with Dwight Howard. You know me and my relationship with Dwight, not a fan. I think that Dwight Howard hasn't lived up to the hype. I don't think that he has lived up to his potential. That's probably the better way to put it. Plain and simple. Forget all of the fun and the laughing and the joking and cracking jokes on Dwight Howard. And we're going to fight. We were on a plane. We were coming back from Bristol, Connecticut, and we were going to fight. He had a problem with something I said about him on the radio 10 years ago. Dwight has not lived up to his potential, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people will agree with you. And then not only that, heart comes into play, too, when I think about Dwight Howard and having the opportunity to be the guy to be in a long list of great centers that played for the Los Angeles Lakers. And plain and simple, he didn't want it. He didn't grab the bull by the horns. He didn't want to grab the bull by the horns. You kind of get the same feeling when he was in Houston. And I thought it was a great thing. I talked about Dwight. I thought it was a great thing when he came to the Hawks this year because this city has had an idea of bringing Dwight Howard home. He's from Atlanta and playing for the hometown team. But that Dwight Howard from the time where he took the Orlando Magic to the NBA championship and got swept. I believe they got swept. Playing against the Los Angeles Lakers, them days are gone. But I like the idea of bringing them here. We needed a name. Atlanta needs a big star, kind of superficial on a lot of things, materialistic and that type of thing, kind of like Black Hollywood. So I thought it was a good idea bringing Dwight to the Hawks. But for the money you paying him, you could take him or leave him. The problem is we can't leave him because we got to pay him the deal, the contract, and I don't think anybody else is going to take that salary on. Remember, the NBA are guaranteed contracts. So it's a tough situation for the Hawks right now, man, and Dwight Howard. And I just think that he's still not the same guy. I think the back injuries that he had, they come into play as well. Then when you talk about all the other things that I just mentioned, man, it's a tough situation in Dwight Howard. So I'm very interested to see what SHlenk is going to do. What type of magic can he work in a guy that was in the front office with the Golden State Warriors for so many years, through some tough years, and then all the way through the great years. So he's been a witness, and he knows, what you need to do to take your organization to the next level. And he's a guy that goes out and drafts great players. He was head of, the draft for the Golden State Warriors for many, many years. So we'll see. I like the hire. I'm very interested to see the direction that he takes this team going forward. And you're listening to the Doug Stewart Show. And listen to this. Between segments on ESPN's Around the Horn, Boston Globe columnist Bob Ryan harshly criticized Hawks center Dwight Howard after the Washington Post named Howard the NBA's 27th best player since the NBA-ABA merger in 1976. They said Dwight Howard is the 27th best player since the NBA-ABA merger. They're saying Dwight Howard is the best player, the 27th best player in basketball since 1976. I'm not going to, before I even get into the rest of the story, what Bob Ryan had to say, that is a lie. That is a lie. That is a lie. Dwight Howard is the 27th best player in basketball since 1976. Here's a quote from Bob Ryan. There's no bigger towering piece of excrement than Dwight Howard. I think excrement is shit, if I'm not mistaken. That's pretty hard. That's pretty low. Howard is sandwiched between Allen Iverson and John Stockton overall, and is ranked 7th among centers behind Tim Duncan, Hakeem, Shaquille, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Moses Malone, and David Robinson. Clearly. Now Dwight, as far as his body, I'm talking about his measurements as far as height and, size and all of that, and potential was great. But Dwight Howard has had, outside of the first couple of years, a very mediocre career. Hawks great and Hall of Famer Dominique Wilkins is ranked number 34. So put that in perspective. Dominique Wilkins is ranked behind Dwight Howard as far as greatest players in NBA history. 34. Dwight Howard was ranked number 27. Not only is he behind Dwight Howard, he's 7 spots behind him. He is the 7th ranked small forward behind LeBron James, who's number 2, Larry Bird, number 5, Kevin Durant, talking about Dominique. He's the 7th ranked small forward behind LeBron James, understandable. Larry Bird, yeah, I get it. Kevin Durant, yeah, Slim Reaper, ball out of control. Scottie Pippen, Julius Erving, and George Gervin. Yeah, maybe I'd put him ahead of George Gervin. I talked about the Iceman a little bit earlier today. Maybe I'd put Dominique ahead of George Gervin, but for the rest of those names, I can dig it. Hawks great and former Dominique Wilkins is number 34. Dwight Howard is 27th. Very, very interesting, man. And, yeah, Dwight Howard, man, if you talk about look like Tarzan, the problem is you got to talk about how he played, which is like Jane. Yeah. So there you have it. Bob Ryan said the man was excrement, which is very, very harsh. It's very bad when you use a word like that, and you just give the book definition of the word and use the non-street vernacular of the word. Excrement. The man didn't say doo-doo. The man said excrement. Let me jump in the chat room on Spreaker.com, read more of your chat messages. Yeah. Texas Ty said, I didn't say anything about the other teams. Most of the teams I didn't list have no reason not to sign Cap, AZ, AF, Miami, KC, to name some. From ducking and dodging, people think Dwight should be better because of his physique, even though he's undersized. And you know what? Touche. Maybe that's a good point. Dwight really, his game and the way that he ran the floor is really like a power forward. You know, he's a big guy, but Dwight may have been served better as playing power forward. Now, he would have been an extremely tall power forward. One of the tallest power forwards out there is a guy right at 7 foot tall. But the way that he runs the floor, he doesn't run the floor like a center. He runs the floor like a forward. But, you know, I think the big thing, back to it one more time, man, I think the big thing about Dwight is he's never gotten any better. Like Dwight Howard's game right now, and when he was in L.A. and when he was in Houston, is no better than his second year in the league. I mean, you can't tell me that. I've watched this guy. I watched a ton of this guy in the NBA. He has not gotten any better. And then you add on top of that, I always talk about this, the man was tutored by two of the best post players in basketball history, and Akeem Olajuwon and Kevin McHale. Come on. I think the big, I didn't mention it just now in the story about Bob Ryan, but one of the bigger things as well that Bob Ryan had an issue with is I think that they had Dwight Howard on this list. They had Dwight Howard ahead of Kevin freaking McHale. Are you kidding me? Come on, man. Come on, man. Dwight Howard couldn't hold Kevin McHale's jockstrap, period, especially offensively. McHale was a solid defensive player as well, but offensively, McHale was that dude on the blocks. All right? And then McHale's got rings, he's accomplished, he's a coach or whatever, and they got Dwight Howard ahead of Kevin McHale. Now, I don't think that the poll or the piece was talking about potential. If you talk about potential, Dwight Howard may be one of the most, 2 or 3 most talented players to ever play in the NBA. You know, for some of the reasons I just talked about. This guy is, 6'11", runs the floor like a small forward. But no. As far as what they did on the floor and talent and ability, man, Kevin McHale was a freaking piece of art down on the paint. This man had low post moves and I know I'm a Laker fan, but McHale used to be a beast on them blocks. And to put Dwight Howard ahead of Kevin McHale is blasphemy. I agree with Bob Ryan on that one. Sidney Jackson, did Doug's wife say he would leave him for Dwight too? A lot of hate, sir. You call it hate, whatever you want to call it, man. From Andre Elam, Texas Ty, I haven't read not one article that said money is what holding him up from teams signing him. Come on, son. From who we got here? You're listening to the Doug Stewart Show. From Wody, Free Dougie Stew 504, Dwight's progression has been very underwhelming. That's a great word. That's a long word, but that's a great word. Underwhelming is the perfect word for Dwight Howard. And listen, I come on, man. I just talked about my love and admiration for this city. You know, kid from Atlanta, straight out of high school and college. Y'all know how I feel about that. I think these kids should be able to go and play in the NBA whenever the hell a team wants to draft them. So you had both of those working in his favor. I was a huge Dwight fan and wanted Dwight to be one of the best centers and wish him well in the NBA. Year after year after year went by, and this man never got any better. Still laying bricks down there 2-3 feet from the basket. No touch, no finesse. No new footwork really. I mean, nothing really different than what he did when he was coming straight out of high school. And, just a disappointment. I wish him the best. I wish that he would have been better and realized, his abilities, but it just hadn't been the case. from Chucktown Frank, Ish, Doug giving the